Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. But before we get started with today's show, I want to make it clear that the views and comments on this podcast are our opinions. We are not physicians, and we cannot diagnose psychological disorders or any medical disorder. But there is one more very important public announcement that we as a team would like to make. And I'm now going to turn this over to Christine, Nina, and Regina. Ladies, take it away.
Well, happy Pride, everybody. As most people know, June is LGBT Pride Month. We would like to just give a shout out to all of our people out there and their families and friends that support us in the community and say thank you. Love who you want.
Thanks, Regina. This is Christine, and I just wanted to say to our LGBTQIA plus community, welcome, thanks for listening, and happy Pride as well. And for our listeners that are not in our community, I just wanted to clarify why Pride is such a big deal, not only to us, but it should be to you as well. Is it really was hate that we were fighting against in order to just be who we are and love who we want to love. Back in 1969, there was the Stonewall Uprising, where basically the LGBTQ community decided to fight back against getting arrested for hanging out at the bar with each other, or getting beat up in an alleyway, getting left for dead because somebody thought that you were an abomination. So it was the queer community rising up to just be able to exist. And the community itself is hugely grateful to allies like Tracy and Todd. Tracy and Todd are allies of our community because not only do they accept us, but they go out of their way to make sure that they stand up for our community members' rights when they're not being stood up for by themselves, or if they're being ganged up on. The allies in our community are really superstars, and all we're really trying to do with celebrating Pride is keeping up the awareness of the unfairness that had happened and still continues to happen in most of the world today. We're begging our allies all month long, and we're begging our non-allies to just open up their hearts and have compassion for other human beings until we can all be authentically ourselves in harmony with one another. So happy Pride to the community, and Tracy and Todd, the community. I speak for my whole community when I say thank you for being allies.
Oh, thank you. Of course we would.
You're welcome.
Of course we would. So thank you. That was beautiful and beautifully said, Christine. Thank you so much for your authenticity and for showing me. It's been a journey, and I'm thankful for it. And your dog agrees again.
Dog agrees. He's an ally too.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, I'm a teary mess. Okay. All right, so here we go. So this is season 2, episode 9. We will be discussing the Alpine murders, Catherine Wood and Gwendolyn Graham. With me, as always, is Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, and my husband, Todd Preston. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
All right, everybody. So today I decided to pick a topic to kick off the show, and that topic is of self-harm, which is also called non-suicidal self-injury disorder. Now, the information I'm going to use to speak to you guys right now is an article that I read from the Cleveland Clinic. So some of the most common ways people self-harm is cutting, burning, and in Gwen's case, she burned herself with cigarettes, hitting things like walls, which can cause impact injuries, scratching or rubbing to the point that causes injury, biting, self-punching, hair pulling, head banging, and skin picking. And I can't help but wonder, why do people self-harm? Well, it's a coping mechanism that is not helpful to the person at all. And it can occur in people dealing with intense emotions and feeling of distress when they don't know how to handle these feelings. People who do this behavior say it helps them to relieve their pressure or anxiety and helps them to get through their emotional numbness. It can help take their inner pain and turn it into a physical pain. It can also be a way to self-punish. Now, why does it help to cope? Well, to them it feels good. It's also a way for them to relieve their negative feelings and show that they can tolerate pain. They turn their emotion inwards, meaning they are punishing or taking out their anger on themselves in this way to communicate to others that they are in distress, or a way to call out for support. Right now, most people who self-harm, they're usually covered up, right? But some, like Gwendolyn Graham, she showed her scars. So to me, I think that was a way for her, unbeknownst to her really what she was doing, but she was looking for help. That's just kind of my opinion. Now, I want to also mention what are the most common body parts that people self-harm. Their arms, especially their forearms, wrists, front of their thighs, and their abdomen. And these wounds can be in different stages of healing, or you could see multiple scarred areas that relatively look the same. So again, back to Gwendolyn, her self-harming was putting cigarettes, she was smoking cigarettes, and she put them out on her arm. So she had all the same style looking scars on her arms. And I also want to discuss what mental health issues are linked to self-harming behavior, because Gwendolyn, I'm just going to say Gwen Graham, I think has a few of these. So one is anxiety, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, depression, conduct disorders, dissociative orders, gender dysphoria, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, sleep disorders, and substance abuse issues such as the abuse of alcohol, which again, Gwen had that. So what do you guys think about that with Gwen? I think...
Wow, that's a whole ball of wax right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's important that we talk about where her mental state was.
Right.
Right, and how she got completely manipulated. I mean, she's already such a wounded bird, right? So if you remember from the story, Gwendolyn claimed that she was sexually abused by her father. So not only was he sexually abusing her per Gwen, you know, she was also had to kill her dog. Her dad would punish her by sticking her head in a toilet and flushing it when she was a little girl. You know what I mean? So she has so much mental damage that I can see how Catherine saw her and just swooped in, knowing that she was just right. She was an animal. Gwen was prey.
Yep.
And she had some twisted shit in her mind. So what do you guys think about that?
Gwen has a laundry list of diagnoses. The problem with that is what that really tells me, at least, is they really couldn't focus on any one issue, any one problem, or any one overwhelming symptomology. So she was kind of all over the place all the time, consistently, is what that says. I don't know. My mind automatically goes to what were they medicating her with and how did she react to those medications? My mind automatically wants to go to, okay, so let's drill this down a bit because this is too all over the map. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, what year was this?
1988 and 1989.
So I'm thinking there's not a whole lot of medication going on at this point, because mental health really was just kind of ignored a little bit back then. You know?
I think it's ignored now. It's getting better.
Yep.
But I don't remember any of the research that I did that said Gwen was on medication. Are you talking about once they had her incarcerated and they were medicating her then, Christine?
Yeah, well, she was incarcerated, and when they first did their first assessment of her there,
yes,
that supposedly after some snaps she had. Because remember when she was on the run, not successfully, might I add, when she was with her then next girlfriend after Cathy, she was living a life, doing her thing, working again. You know what I mean? Like, she was functioning in society and on the run. Like, she knew enough. Her girlfriend at the time wasn't involved. So she wouldn't have known that they had to be on the run. She wouldn't have known the intricacies of it unless she was told. However, Gwen knows everything that's happening, finds out what's going down back at home, and takes off running. Remember, they came to their house, and it looked like they had just left.
Correct.
Moments noticed. So she was alerted, aware enough. This tells me that the functionality in her brain is at least, like, able to critically think, because she's like, they're coming. I've got to go, because someone who can't critically think wouldn't even get that far. Do you know what I mean? So, and then all of a sudden she's in prison and she's like, I don't know, like a laundry basket of mental health issues.
Right. I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you on that, because I feel like fight or flight is a brainstem response. I mean, that is, animals have that. It's a reflex. It's an instinct. It's not necessarily indicative of reasoning higher brain function.
Well, remember,
it was just that, she was like, shit's about to go down. I got to get out of here. That is, I mean, a child does that. They tear something up, they break something, and they run and hide and they distance themselves from it. So I don't necessarily think that means that she was calculating, because, quite honestly, having watched videos of her, I don't feel like she has necessarily the wherewithal to think that far ahead. I'm not saying that it assuages her guilt in any way. She's not absolved, but I don't know that her response to hearing that the police were coming for her necessarily indicates either guilt or, a higher reasoning, having a plan, because clearly she didn't have a plan. It didn't work out very well.
I hear you on fight or flight, but fight or flight is in the moment. Fight or flight is you see something or you feel something or you hear something and you go.
Or someone calls and tells you the popo's coming and you run.
That takes deductive reasoning. To be able to make the decision to run when someone tells you the popo's coming, that's deductive reasoning. That's critical thinking.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
Agreed. Granted, it's a sliver. But the thing is that's barring that her then girlfriend doesn't know the full story. Because in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. If her then girlfriend doesn't know why they're all of a sudden on the run, Gwen's got to be smart enough and savvy enough and slick enough to get her to get up and get going.
Right, but here's the thing. So Gwen did tell, because this girl also worked at the Manor, her new girlfriend. And Gwen did tell her what she had done. I don't think she told her the magnitude, like how many it really was, but she did tell her new love, and she kind of just didn't believe her. But she had to have believed her in some fashion because, they packed it up and took off. Granted, they didn't get far. They weren't good escape artists.
She'd already been interviewed by the police at least once, correct?
Yeah, I think she... wait a minute. Yes,
they interviewed both
that's
of
right.
them before they ever made any arrests.
That's correct, because Cathy went back. Remember, Ken turned her in. Because that was a year after they broke up as well. Right? Remember, he sat on that for a year? Because I think he was thinking, oh, I'm going to get her back. She's going to come back in the home and we're all going to be a happy, happy family. But it was like a year later, he's like, okay, well, I think now is the time to go. Which I think is crazy that he sat on that. He was going to swallow those murders.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah, and that's another one that's crazy. So you started out talking about Gwen and all of her mental issues and what brings a person to do the things that she was doing. But this story just makes you go down a million what-if paths.
Right.
And what the heck paths? Because, like you said, the ex-husband, with him sitting on it for a year, and then the new girlfriend with her sitting on it for a year. Were all of these people, were they all basically just ageists because they didn't deem these elderly people to be worthy.
Well,
Like, that's where I go to, is that this is really just about ageism. Because the ex-husband was like, well, and even in his testimony on her behalf, he was like, what? Really, how much life did she take? Come on. These were just elderly people, as if they weren't human lives.
yeah, and they're going to die anyway. So can you consider that?
Right. Yeah, so apparently that's kind of maybe the same sentiment that the new girlfriend had. You know, the one that was on the run with her.
Yeah, and I don't remember her name at all. But
Yeah, I don't either.
yeah, I agree because, yo, man, if Nina came to you and said, listen, shh, sis, I murdered like 5 people, but it's cool. Like, would you keep that under your hat?
Just play along.
Because I'm telling you, if Todd came to me and said, Trace, listen, here's the deal. I had to murder that dude who won't come to work.
Oh,
No
my
matter
gosh.
how hard we try, he can't get through a week of coming to work.
I feel murderous a lot.
I would want to keep it a secret, but I'm going to turn her ass in. I would turn you in, huh?
You
we
would?
can't go on.
Well,
I would. And I would
I
hope you
can
would
tell
turn
you
me in.
this.
Well,
She
you know
has
I
told
wouldn't murder
me
anybody, though.
that the first time I'm going to get you out of it. The second time.
Wait.
The second time, I'm going to help you, but it's going to be from a distance. And the third time, you're on your own.
All right, I'm even gonna tell them some clues.
Yeah, I'll give him a little indication.
Listen, this is 3 times now. Come on.
Yeah. Wait, what is it
this
they
is a-
say?
this
First
is a
time,
problem.
shame on you. Second time, shame on me. Is that the situation?
No, that's from the opposite side. I mean, this is the story that I mean, Trace, I probably said this to you a time or two. I say this in all of my relationships. Like, listen, as long as we're good with all my relationships, meaning my parenting style was this way, my intimate relationships are this way, my friendships are this way, anybody who I consider in my soul bubble, you know what I'm saying? Like, my group. I've probably said to them before, like, the first time you get in trouble, if we're tight and you let me know everything, I'm here to help you 100%. We'll make it disappear. However, we need to make it disappear. The problem, that is. The second time, I will help you make it disappear, and I will help you get through this, but you have to do the work. I'm here for support.
I'm going to tell you how you're going to do that.
Wait a second. She'd be asking you because you're the muscle.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you say it again?
That last part, because everybody was talking, we were all chipping in and they're all laughing, and we blocked out that last bit.
The last time, what? You're on your own?
Yeah, well, the third straight, 3 straight, that's it. You're on your own. I'm not having anything to do with it. If you couldn't learn with full-blown tutorial, and then you couldn't learn with full-blown assistance, the third time, I'm sorry, you're going to either have to sink or swim. That's it.
I'm out. Deuces.
Well, you know, oddly enough, my best friend gave me a gift for my 50th birthday, and it's a little silver shovel. And it's because she says that, you know, I'm a shovel friend. And the shovel friend is the bitch that you call up at 3 a.m. and go, girl, I need you to get some lime and a shovel. And tomorrow we're not going to speak of this again.
It's the Shovel Club.
Yeah, I'm that friend. You know, if you call me up crying and you're like, girl, I mean, yeah, I've got the shovel and I've got a backhoe and 80 acres. Actually, I doubt anybody'd miss them. It'll be fine.
All right. Well, guess what? With all your stand-up soul bubble friendship, love, whatever, I sound like a straight-up bitch because I'm like, if you kill someone and you tell me,
Yeah,
I'm turning your ass
she
in.
gonna turn me in on the first one. Come on, give me 3 tries, Joe.
Well, it's partially because I like to think that it's partially because I like to think that the people that I allow into my soul bubble, is that what it is, Christine? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, into my inner circle wouldn't kill someone without a very good reason.
Exactly.
So in my head, anybody that I have to help my best friend bury had it coming.
Justice.
Now, at the point that they're a serial killer, my perception may change a bit.
You know what? Just so everybody knows, my background, my ancestry is Vikings. I wish I could just carry an axe with me all the time. because I would take care of a lot of issues, but you can't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah, like the pool guy that screwed us today.
Oh, jeez.
And that's Dave. That's another story.
It's hysterical. I can totally picture Todd just in his mind's eye just turns into a Viking.
Oh, for real.
You know what? Nobody's going to mess with you if you're just walking around with an axe.
They're like, that's not right.
All right.
Get on the other side of the street.
Listen, we're going to try and stay on this guy's good side.
Does anybody have any other tidbits about Gwen before we get into Cathy?
Well, I don't know. You guys said that you watched something where Gwen did an interview, and you were all kind of like that one interview, that visible, indelible mark Gwen made with her video interview, that kind of swayed you to heavily believe that she was incapable of being a mastermind in any way. Why is that? Could you explain that to me? Because I'm still on the fence. Like, I literally can tell you a story about how each one of these women was a mastermind or the dummy. You know what I mean? Or I could tell you some pathways that they were totally in cahoots, and then the jiltedness took over when Gwen had a new girlfriend. But that doesn't explain her indelible mark she made on you guys when you watched the interview and saw her, images of her.
Now, I'm going to turn that over to Regina because I did not see that personal interview. I did see some news clips, but they were not like a personal interview. So I'm going to hand that to Regina.
Well, I mean, so to clarify, the documentary that I watched, and it's a really old one, I guess I had to hunt it down, and there was still snippets of it on YouTube. But they interviewed both of them. Part of it is the demeanor clinically, but I've also seen the demeanor like in family members who were abused, who, you know, had some of the same traumas that each of these women had growing up, and watching the body language and hearing how they speak, and just the emotional immaturity that Gwen portrays when she's spoken to. I don't think that she's that good of an actor. And then on the other hand, you have the other, what was her name?
Catherine Wood.
Cathy. Yeah. So on the other hand, you have Cathy, and the way that she's talking about these things is just, she's very animated and she's very detailed. Like, I guess, you know, the point that I wanted to talk about this evening was like a narcissist that's spinning a tale, and that's what they do is, you know, they spin these grandiose tales, and they may be based, in fact, at some level, but they are always embellished to put them in the most positive light possible, or to make them appear to be the victim and the one who's been taken advantage of. And it was just a combination of personal experience and having seen things like this clinically that just sort of made me feel like Cathy is the one that probably orchestrated the whole thing, and that Gwendolyn was led down that path. And that's just my, you know, that's my feeling going forward. Obviously, I didn't interview either of them, so I don't know. There's no way for me to test, you know, the veracity of my conclusion.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I was just asking because I hadn't seen it. But while you were talking, I was thinking, Trace, you did mention when you first told me the story, you mentioned how they did check through the records, and there were so many deaths, and that they had an uptick, and there was a percentage of them that were under the care of both of them. But did they ever clarify more being under one of them or not? Because you got to remember, these were techs, they weren't nurses, so they would have like a whole wing per shift, or I'm assuming each one of them would have a wing or select rooms for their shift. So were they always a team at work? I didn't hear that anywhere.
Right. So, yes. And thank you for pointing that out as a reminder, because some of, like, if people are going to, like, you know, or if people have, or if they're going to, once they hear the show, they haven't listened to the previous show, they're going to look it up. And there's a lot of material out there that says that they were nurses, or at least Cathy was a nurse. They were not. They were certified nursing assistants is what they were. And because of their relationship, so remember they worked at night, and because of their relationship, they always worked it out where they were always working the same shift. And yes, Christine, they had wings. But here's the thing. They nailed down the number of patients that they could specifically tie to Gwen and Cathy because they were on their wing. There were a ton of other patients, but they just couldn't exactly tie them to it. Because they're actually thinking, I think I remember the number was around 20, but they could only pin those, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
5.
Yep.
I think it was 5.
Yep.
Right? So they suspect a hell of a lot more, but they could only definitively prove the 5.
But how many were on their wings?
I don't know. I never saw that in the book that I read or other.
I'm sorry. And of those 5, how many were Gwen's and how many were Cathy's on their wings?
I don't know that either.
I worked as a tech during nursing school. I worked on a unit that specialized in pediatric brain and spinal cord injuries. I think I mentioned that before. But so I worked weekend nights, and yeah, we had our entire basically wing or hallway. But even though you weren't technically assigned a partner, it was not uncommon for us to team up and, all right, let's go do yours and get them done, and then we'll go do mine. And for 2 of us, and in particular, if you have patients that are full assist that need to be changed, need to be turned, it's not uncommon to take somebody with you. So even if they were both in those rooms at the same time, whether it was assigned to them or it was assigned, if it was assigned to me or if it was assigned to Christine, it wouldn't be uncommon or out of place to see both of us in the room doing patient care.
Right. And I'm going to thank you for bringing that forward because, listen, if you and I and Christine were working in a unit, and I've done this with my good friends when I worked in ICU and CCU, I'm like, oh my God, thank God you're working, Wendy. Let's do it. Because that's what we would do. We would rock and roll our patients, bathe them, shave them, dress them, get them up, this, that. Because I knew I could depend on her and we could rock it out. And I would help her with her patients. And of course, you help anybody else, but dedicated, me and you. Let's do it.
Yeah, but you weren't thinking about killing people.
We weren't. We were trying to save their lives.
Yeah, and I get that. And I get the team aspect of working on the unit, or in this case, it's a skilled nursing facility, right? So it's a nursing home. So they don't have that many RNs, and they don't have full patient regimes at night like we did on the units. In ICUs, day shift, night shift, it's the same thing. Every hour you have things to do. Period. End of story. So yes, I get all that, and what Regina was saying, that in the nursing facility, they still would pair up and help each other, but only if they were on the same wing. You wouldn't go to another wing to help your friend out with their patient. And I'm sure there was another tech in her wing. So my question is, did they work in tandem in the wings together? Yes, they did.
Yep,
Well,
I agree too.
yes,
I think they
did.
were totally. They were both guilty.
Well, let me tell you, because I remember you guys saying, and obviously, I'm sure they didn't get every shift together, but Tracy did make a point to mention that in the beginning of the relationship, they did everything they could to get shifts together. Overtime, any time that they, were working, they tried their hardest to work together.
Oh, okay. So that tracks on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and also I think Christine and I kind of get where you're coming from, but depending on the size of this nursing facility, it may not have been that large. I mean, the one that I was talking about, was 2 floors. There were 2 hallways upstairs and there was 1 downstairs. So the 2 of us who worked upstairs, I had a wing, but it really wasn't that much of a wing. It was maybe, 8 rooms.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this place, I've seen, pictures of it in some of the documentary.
Are there photographs?
And photographs and a documentary that I watched. It's a single story building from what I can recall. I don't remember it even being, you know what I'm saying? It's not like a ginormous place. There may have been 4 halls.
All right. So when they did work together, they could work in teams.
Yeah.
So really be able to differentiate the patients that died. But the numbers, I know we don't really have the numbers handy from the podcast, do we? But there were 40 murders in what, the year or the quarter or the month? And then there was an uptick of 20, right?
Not
were those
murders,
the numbers,
not.
or am I making that up?
Yeah, no, not murders, just deaths, because when we think about the type of person that was a resident, the majority of them were quite old, right, with Alzheimer's and dementia. But then one of the victims, she was in her 60s, but she had such advanced dementia. Like, her family worked so hard to try and take care of her, but it just, I mean, caregiver strain. You've seen it. It's tremendous. It got to a point where it was just too difficult for just everyday people to take care of someone that really needed so much more. She was one of their victims, but the majority of them were, I think, a couple are in their 90s, some in their 70s, and that was the rationale. Well, they were gonna die anyway. It was like they wanted to be their own natural selection of who's gonna live and who's gonna die. Hey, you know what? That one right there, she can't speak, she can't feed herself, and guess what else? If we screw this up, nobody's gonna believe her. Because she's cuckoo in the brain, they think.
Yeah, let's get rid of this one because she's too much work for nothing.
No one will believe her.
I remember when we were going through the podcast, and I was thinking to myself while you were telling me the story, I really thought that they were going to do the whole Angels of Mercy thing. I really thought they were going to go the Kevorkian route and try to plead out that they were helping these people. But they didn't. They went into this whole love triangle, which was super crazy.
Right.
I kind of got that feeling too. The whole, the angels of death. This one's gonna die anyways. Let's just put them out of their misery, kind of thing.
Yeah, because if I don't help her keep her chin in this direction when she swallows, she'll choke to death.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's one less person I gotta take care of. Trying to make my job easier.
It's got like local legend or folklore in a lot of places anyway, where there are a lot of those type of people in nursing homes, or maybe it's just like urban legend kind of thing, right? But I know that I've always heard of that.
I have
like
too.
People that work in nursing homes, like that's what happens to them. They get that complex, like they're helping, and they help some of their patients to pass. Like, I mean, it's always been a storyline out there, right?
Well, it's definitely happened, but think about this too. It's the strong preying on the weak.
And here's the problem, too. If you're at that point, you can't take care of yourself at all. You can't talk. Your mind's going. You can't even tell somebody, listen, just end it for me.
You can't do that legally here, though.
You
that was what Kevorkian got in trouble for.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And I don't want to live. That's no quality.
Right. And you're in pain. You're not going to survive this.
If you don't feed me, I'm not going to sustain myself.
Right.
I don't want any of that. I don't want that. That's bullshit. You better listen to what I'm saying.
Most people don't. But when they get to that point, they can't say it.
But nobody, so you know what? Here, I'm going to go a little bit medical. Yep. That's why it's so important. I don't care how old you are. It's important that you have a living well.
Yep.
Something.
Amen.
What do I want? What do I not want?
They probably didn't use that as a defense because, let's just be honest, neither of them had enough empathy for other people to even consider that as a possibility for a defense. Other than that initial statement about she told me she was helping the patient. Neither of them have any genuine empathy. It never occurred to them to even make that argument during their defense because they obviously couldn't pull it off, and it never occurred to them to say, hey, I was really helping this person. Would you really want to live this way?
Right. And let's think about it. We're going to do another little flippy flop, helping people. But really, it was Catherine's game of chess, or it was a game. Remember, she wanted to spell the word murder. And her shit did not work. I mean, you can go through and pick letters, and I've gone through it. You can't spell all of it. You know what I mean? It just didn't work out. But that was her sick game.
That's really where we go twisted and down the evil track.
Mm-hmm.
When I say this every time we talk, I feel like, about this stuff. evil sometimes is just evil. Like, this
Yeah.
shit, Cathy, maybe she's just evil. And the game thing is what really throws it over the edge. Like, it was fun. Games are fun, right? So this was fun for her. The whole drama of it all, even telling and tormenting her husband with it. Like, it was all fun to her.
Well, involving Gwendolyn in it too. She drew her in. Look, this is exciting. This is like an adventure. We're okay. Nobody's gonna ever even know.
It's a game. And Gwendolyn is just a little girl in her brain in some aspects. Yes, I'm sorry. Is that Nina? Go, baby.
Oh, sorry. You were cutting out, so I couldn't tell if you were stopping or you were continuing to talk. I want to know who brought the BDSM into the bedroom.
That was, let me think, hold on. It was Gwen. Some of the BDSM, and I didn't bring it into the story, but one of the things that Catherine would do, I can't remember exactly what Gwen brought into it, but I think she just allowed her to be free, because I just think she just allowed her to be free, and she brought in some BDSM stuff, but then...
She was the submissive one.
Gwen?
Yep.
Yes, she absolutely was. And one of the things that Catherine used to do to Gwen is Catherine used to have really long nails, and she would dig into Gwen's back and just bear claw her. And she spoke up, so in the book that is one of my sources, Forever in 5 Days, Laurel Cafial, he went into great detail about that and how Gwen used to say how much it hurt her, but, you know, because she loved Cathy. So it was like in every way, shape, and form, Cathy was just degrading this girl and being animalistic to this girl. You know what I mean? Like, she was just her puppet to do whatever she wanted to do. I mean, there's a difference between a love scratch or a bite or a whatever versus caught. Like, this girl, she probably has scars on her back, the way she described it in this book. She would bleed.
BDSM is not necessarily related to psychological issues, and some people, even if they are scarred afterwards, or they're injured, they're doing this consensually, and it is a fetish or a kink for them, and it doesn't make them crazy, and it doesn't make them killers, just to be clear.
I just and I wanted to add this. Anything in excess is unhealthy. There's always limits. Right?
True, and there's like safe words and all that stuff. But what I also, as you were just saying that, Regina, what it made me think of is it's self-harming. It makes her feel pain. And for her, that's something that goes all the way back to her being a little girl with her dad.
What's interesting is that Gwen is the one that brought up the BDSM. Gwen is the one that self-harmed. Perhaps Gwen kind of wanted the harm to come from Cathy as a fetish type thing for her. And yes, I agree with Regina. Fetishes and all of that does not completely lead into the mental health realm of things, because like Todd said, as long as it's not excessive and not completely taking over your world, then anything is normal and healthy in normal healthy doses. However, with Gwen, it opens up a whole Pandora's box of questions for how much of this self-harm was actually self-harm, or was it longing for Cathy again? And she was doing it to herself, kind of like masturbation.
Wait, hold up. Are you saying she was scratching her own back?
I mean, what do you think? Only the back got her nails dug into it? I'm
Well,
sure her thighs.
well, that's what I read, because I don't know what position they were in, but what I'm going to tell you is she said while having sex, she would just, that was her thing, tearing up her back. And it wasn't just a, oopsie, I went too far on that one. Sorry, babe. No, it was bear claw, dig in, hard, deep. All 5 layers. Is there 5 layers? There's 5 layers of skin, correct?
Yes, there are, because I did tattoos.
Don't tell me to name them all, but I know there's 5.
Yep.
Right, ladies? Nurses, confirm. Starship. Wait, I'm clicking that little arrow on my shirt, but you bitches aren't answering me.
I think there's 5 layers of skin.
I thought it was only 3.
Did Regina say? I thought there was only 3.
I thought she said, wait, what'd you say?
Yeah, the skin is made up of 3 layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis.
No, there's
Where
fucking
is-
5 layers. I don't give a fuck what you
No.
just looked up. Are you looking it up on a reputable site?
National Institute of Health, reputable enough.
It's all right.
I think that's just 3 main layers, though.
Yeah, but there is 5. There's 5 total layers. That wasn't it.
There's 7. There's the stratum corneum,
Oh, here we go. Are you going down to the mitochondrial?
stratum spinosum, stratum bacilli, and dermis and hypodermis. Bitches, don't fuck with me.
Right. But if you,
I'm also a
if you,
cosmetologist.
those are part
There is
of
7.
the epidermis, ma'am. There are 5 layers of epidermal cells. Those are the ones that you just
I'm sorry.
named off. There's epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis are the layers of skin.
Excuse me, Miss. Tracy said layers of skin. There are 7 layers of skin. There are 5 layers of the dermis. That's why I said there's 7, but okay. We can
5 layers of epidermis.
Yes, there's 5 layers of epidermis.
You know what? I love ladies. I love our conversations
You know
because we're some smart bitches.
I've only penetrated 2
I hear
layers.
about anything.
Oh dear God! Did you hear what Todd said?
So, Christine, the 5 are sublayers.
Oh my God! Drop it. Listen, bitches. Enough.
No.
Moving on.
There are 3 main layers, 5 different layers of skin, and 7 layers of skin.
Total. That's the
No.
point.
Total.
Do you want me to tell you the 7 layers of skin again, my friend? Stratum corneum.
I know them with you. I'll say them with you.
3, 2, 1. Say it.
Stratum corneum.
Stratum lucidum.
Stratum granulosum.
Stratum spinosum.
Stratum bacilli. Dermis.
Epidermis. Dermis, and then hypodermis.
Right. So that's the 5 layers of the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. So that's where you get the 7, the 5, and the 3.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Christine, I'm only 2 layers deep.
I
Did you know
told
what
you.
else? When you're friends, nothing is impossible except for either a Capricorn or an Aries to concede defeat in an argument.
Are we going horoscoping again? Because guess what?
I'm an Aquarius.
I need help.
win every
None of
argument.
this shit makes sense to me.
So nobody got my joke because I used to do tattoos.
No, I don't think they know you used to
I-
do tattoos.
No, I got the 2 layers deep, but then I laughed because I just thought of that you're only 2 centimeters deep. And then I giggled, put it on mute, and Nina said, "Aw, poor Tracy."
Okay.
All right.
All right. You dirty bitches.
I'm more than 2 centimeters.
He is more. He's at least 6.
Hey, that's not nice.
She just gave me a spaghetti-o penis.
No, honey, your penis is amazing, and you know that.
6 centimeters. Oh my god.
I had to quadruple what they said. Like, take it into what context, hun.
You know what?
I quadrupled what they said.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome, sir.
Tracy, 6 inches is 2 inches more than the average.
No,
So,
baby.
I mean,
He's
you
more
beat them
than
up.
6.
It's good.
He's more than 6. I'm not going to tell all them. Those are my secrets.
Well, you know none of us are interested, right?
I know.
Right, so that's cool because we're all a bunch of dudes talking.
Except for me, I'm not a dude. I'm straight up. Straighty street.
But
All right,
you know
let's
what?
get back on topic.
You know what? You fuckers.
Yeah, we went crazy on the skin and then
God damn it, Tracy already told you I'm all worked up.
Hard this time.
I already told you John's worked up. This is not helping.
It's going to be a long
Love
night.
you, Tracy.
I love you guys. Do you guys like doing the show?
Love it. We need to peg this down.
Yeah, you know what's actually cool though? And me and Tracy have actually been saying this for years when we're on the phone, because our conversations, when it's just the two of us, we will meander between work topics, life topics, judgy topics, like, you know, the regular gossipy girly stuff, and then go back into the compassion of it all. You know what I mean? Like, we weave and bob and weave all over the place, that we always said, like, we should just tape our conversations and put them on a podcast, because it would be like us hanging out with other like-minded people like us.
I feel like we're
and they could feel like they have friends.
I feel like we are the super friends. We are
Yeah,
superheroes right now.
Well, and you know, the cool thing is too, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because even though we're like doing work, it doesn't really feel like work, but the cool thing is like, I sit there and I think about it all the time. I'm like, you know what? My little soul bubble, quote of Christine, is a really good one. It's small, but the people in it, we have great conversations. And to share this, because let's be honest, we're stimulating people. And I think that's amazing. It's like we are inviting them in our bubble just to sit and listen and maybe hopefully open their mind and give them a perspective. I went deep. Ding, ding.
No, that's cool. I totally agree.
I agree with that too.
I agree too. I love it. And I welcome, well, it's also part of me being in my LGBTQ community. It's kind of like the more authentic you become yourself, the more open you become to other people being their authentic selves.
Exactly.
And dropping the judgment and opening up the curiosity and being like, well, I'm not going to judge that. Okay, because let me say this about judgments, especially during Pride Month. Judgments are always an extension of the person doing the judging. So if I look at somebody and I say, wow, they look like a hot mess, I'm actually judging myself because I'm worried about what I'm looking like. If I'm worried about what they're looking like, then I'm worried about what I'm looking like. So I'm not sure if that's a great example. Maybe one of you can jump in with a better example. But judgments are always an extension of the person doing the judging, never of the person that they're talking about.
Right.
Christine, I just want to say this real quick. Christine, I think you're wicked smart.
Oh, you think I'm wicked smart? I'm not from Boston, bitch. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, it's all part of becoming truly authentic to yourself. The more curious you get about others and less judgy you get about things, the more open you are to having conversations like this with other people that are not going to judge you.
I think,
I can
you know what? I think that's true.
And Tracy would be like, oh yeah, but why? Tell me more. And then it's only in the more telling that you get to feel comfortable, you know?
Well, and to that end, kind of one of the things I really thought about in this situation, you know, I've dealt with narcissists in my personal life, and there's something about being in a relationship like that they know how to find the soft spots and they know how to manipulate. So I was reading up on it. My source is a website called Psych Central, and this is an article that's written by the person who wrote a book called Codependency for Dummies. The section on narcissistic relationships, it says partners of narcissists feel torn between their love and their pain, between staying and leaving, but can't seem to do either. They feel ignored, uncared about, and unimportant. As the narcissist's criticism, demands, and emotional unavailability increase, their confidence and self-esteem decrease. Despite their pleas and efforts, the narcissist appears to lack the consideration for their feelings and needs. Over time, they become deeply hurt and frustrated. Despite their pleas and efforts, the narcissist appears to lack consideration for their feelings and needs. When the narcissist is a parent, By the time their children reach adulthood, the emotional abandonment, control, and criticism that they experienced growing up has negatively affected their self-esteem and capacity for achieving success or sustaining loving, intimate relationships. The term narcissism, and then it goes on to really like define what the characteristics of narcissism are. And so, number one, a grandiose sense of self-importance. Number two, dreams of unlimited power, success, brilliance, beauty, and or ideal love. Number three, lacks empathy for the feelings and needs of others. Number four, requires excessive admiration. Number five, believes he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by others who also are special or unique. Number six, unreasonably expects special favorable treatment or compliance with his or her wishes. Number seven, exploits and takes advantage of others to achieve personal ends. Number eight, envies others or believes they're envious of her or him. Number nine, has an attitude of arrogance or acts that way. If you think about this, Cathy grew up in a household where she was being raised by a narcissistic mother and an absent father. I think that we can pretty much agree on that based on the fact that mom didn't want anything to do with her. So these people either grow up to be horribly codependent and potentially attract other people who treat them the same way that they were treated as they were raised, or they grow up to be narcissists themselves. And so based on the event, it feels to me like Cathy is a narcissist and Gwen is the codependent party, but that doesn't, again, mean that everything that she does is okay. But again, having been in a relationship with a narcissist, you don't walk in after the first date and they're like, okay, you can never leave this house again. You can't ever talk to your friends. You can't ever talk to your families. You can't do anything unless I tell you to do it. Nobody would stick around for that. This happens gradually over a period of time. And when a narcissist is into you, it feels like you are the only person on the planet. It feels like the sun shines just for you. And then as soon as you get secure in that feeling, they withdraw that. And then you go from being the perfect person, the most beautiful, the smartest, they love you more than they've ever loved anybody in the whole world, to you're ugly, you're fat, you can't do anything right, you're not a good partner to me, and that person is like that first hit of crack. You spend your rest of your relationship, however long that may be, chasing that high that you felt when they were focused on you in a positive way. And so that's kind of where I see this coming from with the two of them. That's how I feel like Cathy could get Gwendolyn to do what she wanted to do, because I'm going to be honest with y'all, I don't think that I come across as the type of person that would put up with that kind of bullshit, but there is something about that narcissist that they get in your head, and it takes forever to get them out.
You know what? Thank you for that, because that all makes total sense, and that article explained it so well. And I hope that people who are listening to this podcast, because at one point or another, we are all in that position. I've been there more than once. So when people are ready, and when, right, it's like dropping those little seeds. This is an education. Right? The seed was dropped maybe 10 years ago, but I didn't hear you because, but there's somebody who is in the position right now to hear what you just said.
And, also this article, just for anybody that's listening that may hear too many parallels between this story and their relationship, this article goes on to say that if your partner exhibits either of symptom 8 or 9, or actually 7, 8, or 9, that you should run. So I'm going to repeat those. Number 7 is exploits and takes advantage of others to achieve personal ends. Number 8 is envies others or believes they are envious of him or her. And number 9 has an attitude of arrogance or acts that way.
Thank you for
Just
that.
something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'm gonna tap in on this one, because Regina, you struck a chord with me, because that was me. That was me for over 20 years. I was with somebody that was doing that to me, making me feel that I wasn't doing enough, making me feel I wasn't inadequate, and making me do things that normally I wouldn't do. I cut off my whole family. I didn't want to talk. My family knew that there was something wrong with who I was with, but I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting the person that I was with, and that was not the case. Because you want to please the person that you're saying that you love. You're doing this. Okay, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Right, and so that's the Gwendolyn Graham stance.
Yep. That's the tie-in.
Right.
I'm sorry. In Gwen's case, where she was showing people her scars, she was proud of them almost. Like she wanted people to know how much she could take.
Okay, so I don't think that Cathy is a full-on narcissist. I think that a lot of children that are raised by narcissists do tend to form narcissistic qualities in order to cope with them. I think that she truly wants to find love. I don't believe that she understands how to get it because she was never allowed to be authentically who she was as a kid, and her mom stopped that from the get and made that sinful and made it shameful for her. And so she redirected that energy like a lot of late life lesbians, such as myself. You run through men in hopes that the next penis will make sense to you. And having been married to that penis for 19 years, I always hoped for better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted it to get better. I thought, oh, this will be it, and this makes sense. And it isn't until you get later on in your life where you start to go, okay, I only have so much time left here on this earth. Either I'm going to spend it being miserable, or I'm going to stop playing this charade and do what I want to do, which is kind of what Cathy went through, I think. If I remember correctly, she kind of had her little ins and outs there in the beginning and kind of went wild and, that sort of thing.
You're right.
I think she understood how to manipulate for attention because that wholeheartedly in her heart of hearts is what she wanted. I think deep down inside, she just wanted to be loved. I don't want to paint her a narcissist because then I would have to paint myself one. And I think kind of sometimes we all go through things not understanding really where it comes from.
That's totally valid, and I feel you on that, because you spend so much time trying to tell yourself that, that you're going to be okay if everybody else is okay. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Why am I not happy? I totally get that part.
I think for me, I've been quiet because it's just been, I can see myself both in Gwendolyn and Cathy, not to the point of murder, but I can see where I fit both of those personalities. And then I can see how I translated that as a parent. And at the time thinking that I was doing the right thing and continuing on in the style that I had been raised. And part of that was being conservative. And part of that was being religious. And part of that was being bigoted. So my first child struggled with her sexuality in the middle of her also self-harming and trying to kill herself for 3 years, in and out of hospitals, having her sister, find her with blood coming out of her, and knowing that I did not support her when she came out because it was in the middle of all of this and I didn't understand it. And because of that, I now don't have a relationship with her. And that's very, very hard because it was hard for me to come out because I really didn't even think I was allowed to be gay. Like, that just wasn't an option, And I lived my life in such a way that I did not set myself up to be financially independent. So when I was married to my ex-husband, he does fit a lot of those narcissistic symptoms. And narcissistic people come in all different shades. They're not all evil up front. Like Regina was saying, some of them are covert. Some of them are energy, and you get molded into a person that you no longer know. And then you wake up and you walk away from that. And then you really walk away from it. And then at 42, you don't know who you are. But you see the relationships and the damages that were done. And now there's no way to undo that. So I have been, in some of my relationships, the narcissist. And in other aspects, I've been the codependent chameleon. And so I kind of understand where both of these women were coming from and why their connection was so disastrous. Because it is the most toxic combination of personality disorders that you can have together. And I don't know who's more dumb or who's more brilliant, but I do know that at some point they did these crimes together. And I think, she romanticized it. And I think maybe Gwendolyn could have gotten a taste of it and decided that was like killing her mother, because her mother didn't protect her from the sexual abuse, So there's lots of different avenues, but this whole thing has been very hard for me to just talk about in general, because I feel like it's minus the murder part. For me, it is a duality, kind of like how I have felt in my own life in recent times. So it's hard to get through.
Well, you know what, Nina? I think this is exactly how we need to end this show.
I think that Nina had a lot of difficulty with the story, and we were all joking and cutting up, and she was like, "Oh, I'll make it through. I'll chime in when I need to," but we didn't really lend to that, because we cut up as we always do. The thing is that she empathized with both of them, and then she put her own stuff into that a little bit, so she really couldn't, poke or judge either one of these women too fondly. But I kind of agree with Tracy. The sentiment that Nina has is that the two of these personalities coming together is the most toxic of all.
I think everyone will understand where you're coming from, because guess what? I think we're all a little bit like that. We all have those. It's not just you, Nina.
Yeah, that is 100% the truth.
Yeah.
I think everybody is the villain in somebody else's story. Yeah. Maybe we know those people, maybe we don't, but obviously these two felt at one point, at least for 10 hot months, which in lesbian time is, we're practically married for about 5 years.
That's also correct.
Well,
One other thing that I was thinking when Nina was talking, real quick before we go, I kind of, like, Nina was talking about how Cathy was narcissistic, or she couldn't believe that she was totally narcissistic. Maybe she had narcissistic tendencies, and she had the best intentions with Gwen at first. Not that she said these verbatim, I'm just giving the synopsis of it. What I was thinking was, when Cathy did get in the relationship with Gwen, and they were the perfect toxic pair for everything to go awry, there might have been some inkling, some inference in Cathy when they started doing the rough stuff, and the fetishes and whatnot in their play with each other. Cathy may have been so brutal because of how she felt like it was kind of wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, she wanted to be with women, but because she felt it was kind of wrong because of how she was brought up and what she truly felt. I mean, when you're in it like that, you're all the things because you think that's the only option.
Right.
So when I all the things is you're all the way right when you're on the right. You're all the way right because even if you're not inside, you can't find that authenticity when you're surrounded by things that you're questioning silently.
I don't, because I had a tragic story last time. I don't want to be the tragic story rapper, you know? Like,
But you got a lot of tragedy.
I do.
You're fucked up.
You know, and everybody,
and Nina,
everybody has tragedy. You
We
know,
all
but
do.
I don't always
But
wanna
guess
just
what?
Be like the tragic one. you
Yeah,
know?
but guess what, Nina? You have the balls to say it. Listen, we all have our secrets. We all have secrets. Oh, keep this quiet, boop, bop, boop. Let's fit in here or there. And it takes complete fucking bravery. And I mean this from the very core of my being. It takes complete bravery to say your deepest secrets. And I am thankful for you because it makes me cry. And because you said what you said, you are going to make someone else feel how I felt and how Todd felt, where he was crying his eyes out. It's about bravery, about bearing your soul, about being authentic. And you know what, guys? This was an amazing round robin. So hats off to this conversation and my bestie friends, because I love you guys. So have a great week, everyone, and come back on Mail this Monday, where we will have another great episode. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.